I've been very fortunate with the experience that I've gained over the years and the people that I've worked with. And so in 2015, I wrote a book called The Productivity Zone, Stop the Tug of War with Time. Now, you might say, well, yeah, time management is an important aspect in being productive. Well, productivity is just about behavior because it's a byproduct, right, of thinking and acting more strategically. And so that's why today I want you to think about the relationship here of our thoughts, our behaviors, and our feelings, because it's that relationship that dictates your behavior. It's not just the behavior itself. Like usually when we want to try to change behavior, what do? We force it. We force changing our behavior. What do we have as a recognition of that? Anybody here ever made a New Year's resolution? Right? Gonna go to the gym really 3 times a week, every day, whatever it was, and then it doesn't last because it's willpower. And willpower is forcing that behavior to change, and that doesn't work. We have to get to the why power. And the why power is what fuels our thoughts, the energy of our thoughts and our feelings. So if we go to the source, whenever we want to make a change, we want to go to the source. So that's why I talk about the energy of thought, because it is the energy of our thought that will automatically shift that behavior. Does that make sense? So in just a little story about, an aha moment for me when I really understood what it was to think and act more strategically. I had to be hit on the head a couple of times in my business and whatnot, but this one really hit home for me. And so I had a technology business, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that later. But my technology business, when I started it, I had started in accounting, totally different field, right? So I didn't really have the skills to be in the IT business, but I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But I also didn't have the time management skills or the business building skills, because those are needed too, right? You need to be able to train your dogs, but you also need to be able to run your business. So what happened was, I didn't have a great organization like you guys have that supports you with marketing, with systems, and different things like that. I was all on my own, and I struggled. And I tried to do everything on my own. And that really doesn't work that well. So what happened was that I started, and also I was struggling with a little bit of perfectionism. So I couldn't give up control. So as I built my organization, my technology company, my hands were in everything, right? And for that particular type of business, that doesn't work. And for most businesses, that doesn't work. We need to know, when we grow to the next level, we need to let go and delegate and have other people doing different things for us, right? Hire it out or outsource it or whatever. Find ways to automate it like you guys are looking at today. So what happened was I started to work 24 hours a day, and it was burning me out. And I was burning everyone else out because of my intensity and because of my grumpiness, right? And everything that comes along with working like that. Working harder doesn't work. So I did what any logical person would do, is I decided it wasn't my fault. It was the business. I wasn't set out to be an entrepreneur. It must be that. So I avoided it entirely. Instead of building those skills and identifying where my gaps were and really owning it for myself, I avoided it. Maybe you've done that before sometime in your life, or maybe you know someone who's done that before. But that's what I did. And I was very fortunate to have been able to sell the company, to find a buyer, and to sell the company. So I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to go work for a big company. It was this big market research company, and they had loads of money. It was the 4th largest in the world. And I was hired to be their chief technology officer. And so I saw this as a 9-to-5 job. This is when most people laugh. Thank you for a little acknowledgement there. I mean, who has a 9-to-5 job anymore, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? There's a certain level of ownership that is expected, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later too. But 2 weeks before I was supposed to start my position, they asked me to come in early so that I could be part of a reorganization. Now, what I didn't mention is I was also living in Zurich, Switzerland at the time. So everything was in German. Yes, right. You guys understand, you speak dog, so you understand what it is to speak another language and what it is to learn to speak another language. It takes time too, right? So here I am, and I ended up taking my boss's job through this reorganization. So now instead of being CTO of one organization, I'm now responsible for 5 companies across 4 countries. Right? I was like, this is not what I wanted. I wanted a break. I wanted to take it easy. And I thought, avoiding my other challenges, well, that would have been okay. But what happened was they followed right behind me. And then they got bigger and they lurked behind me. And so, I had a lot more responsibility than I ever had. And, what happens when we're not coping effectively is after I tried to avoid it and that didn't work, then what do you think came next? Yeah, breakdown. I blamed myself. I suck. I'm not good at this. I'm not good enough. Why did they hire me? I'm not right for this position. Because what we do when we're stressed is we attack ourselves. And we lose access. Because when stress actually in our brain, what happens is it makes us go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. Right? And so that means that we lose access to the very part of our brain that we need at that very time. Because it gives us the problem-solving skills, but we've just shut those off. So we've got to be emotionally intelligent to get back to that. So in that stressful state, we delete, distort, and generalize things. That's the way we process and filter all information. So I was deleting all of the good stuff and all the skills that I really do have. And maybe that happens for you sometimes when you're out there and you come upon a challenge. So instead of focusing on the resources that you do have, you focus on what you don't have, right? It's human nature. But when you can become aware of that, then you can shift that. You can make a choice and shift that, right? So that's not what I did at that particular moment. But I've learned to do that. I've learned to practice it and become more aware so that I can be more conscious of my choices. So what happened was I decided I was going to quit. Because I was really good at that. I avoided it before. I was lucky enough to sell the business, so why not just quit? Anyone here ever felt like quitting? Well, you should have a boss like I did, so take note. He did not accept me to quit. I went in there and I said, Peter, this is way too much for me. I can't handle this. And he listened. He was such a good boss and mentor, and he taught me so many wonderful lessons. And he said something so simple and so profound that it shook me to my core when I accepted it. So he said to me, Penny, I hired you to make decisions. And what you do with the rest of your time is up to you. I was pissed. Are you kidding me? But he was right. I was pissed in the moment because I wasn't in a good state of mind. But as soon as I let that sink in, because we do that, don't we? Our first reaction sometimes is resistant. But then I let it sink in and I thought about it and I thought, he was right. And that was a pivotal point for me when I decided that it was really about thinking and acting more strategically. And so that's what I want you to get out of today, is it's about thinking and acting more strategically because we're such tactical beings. And so we have to consciously do it because it's not natural. Right? It's instinct for us to be more tactical. So we have to work on being more strategic, more proactive, right? To be better planners. And so I want to come back to the point, I forgot.